Now, I never thought in 1,000,000 years that I would ever end up being Kong's keeper. And how that came about was a friend of mine, Phil Kellison, who just passed away last year, one of the nicest guys in the business. He was an animator, puppet animator. He worked at a place called Cascade originally. I think it was maybe CPC even before that, and then became Coast Effects. He worked on the Doughboys, the animated Doughboys, Speedy Alka-Seltzer, all of those early things. In the 60s and all that on up through. And they were doing Jack the Giant Killer. And they needed some puppets and didn't really want to make all the armatures because armatures are expensive to make. And so they heard that RKO had a bunch of armatures they were willing to sell. They went over and they bought boxes of armatures so they could have these things. And one of the armatures happened to be King Kong. Phil had him, like I said, and he loaned him to a museum that had props and different things from movies out in Buena Park somewhere. And then that museum finally went out of business. Something happened, and Kong kind of disappeared with some of the other props. And just nobody knew where it was. Phil had forgotten all about it, and I think everybody had. And one day we were just talking. I used to see Phil quite a bit, and I said, "Whatever happened to Kong?" And he goes, "Oh my gosh, I don't know." He said, "That museum's out of business." And he goes, "Whoa." So, he called the guy, and the guy says, I have no idea where it is. I think it got lost. A lot of the stuff got lost when we put it in storage. We don't know. And Phil wasn't all that concerned about it. He was, but I mean, it was like, what could he do? It's one of those kind of things. And one day I was going down with a friend of mine, Bill Malone, to get the original Robbie the robot from this guy, to buy it from him. We went out to this big, giant storehouse. I mean, it was so big. And we're out there to get Robbie. And all of a sudden I looked over in the corner, and there in this top box, there's Kong. So as soon as we got back into town, I called Phil right away, and I said, "Phil, I found Kong." And he called the guy, and the guy kind of hemmed and hawed at first, but then admitted, oh yeah, he probably did have it. He hadn't been out there in years, but he wanted to have it for another museum he wanted to do in Oregon. And Phil says, no. I want him back. You've had him long enough. He was almost lost. He could have been lost. If Bob hadn't gone out there, he could have never found him. I want him back. So he did bring him back. And Phil called me the next day and said, "Come over here. I want you to see the boy." And so Phil, I looked at him, and I'm touching him like very gingerly, of course, and everything, because it's just like, oh my God, this is the god of armatures, or something. And then Phil said, "Look, you found the guy, you rescued him. You're now his keeper from now on." And that's actually how I got him. That it was that easy in a way that I got him. But Phil had the trust in me for that since I found him, and he said, "You take care of him from now on," and I have. And I feel so blessed to be able to have it. I mean, Phil entrusted, and I will be forever, in upholding to him for doing that for me. And that's the history of how I got called.